Asian Supervisors Network, and our goal is to have a space from our colleagues in Asia to get together and share resources, build a community. But we open these sessions to everybody in the world who want to join us. And we also open it to coaches or coaches in training, anybody who wants to learn about supervision and want to learn from different experts who are bringing different topics or for demonstrations. So we have been meeting for 3 years. And today, what we have is Ronni Hendel doing a session on somatic work and how that relates to supervision. So I don't know if Ronni, you want to do something somatic with introductions, or do you want people just to say hi first and say where they're calling from? Or do you want to do something like a somatic practice for people to introduce each other? What do you think?
We can let's just have people say hi, and then I'll lead into a practice. Okay.
Okay. So
I'm still in recovery mode.
Okay. Yeah. We have such a traumatic event in the United States, and we had a presidential debate, and it was really painful. So we're recuperating from watching part of it.
So for those of you who had any exposure to that tonight, this will be a very useful practice, what we're going to do.
Great. So thanks everybody for being here. So let's say your name, Damien. I am in Los Angeles, and I have been a supervisor for a few years now. So maybe you want to say your role too. Lily, do you want to go next? Lily is co-facilitating this with me, supporting us in this process.
Hi, everybody. Exciting to see new faces. I'm in Victoria, BC, Canada. So it is 8 o'clock at night for me.
For me too. And Michelle has been with us since the beginning. Michelle is one of the pioneers of coaching supervision worldwide. Do you want to say hi?
Hi. I'm in Paris, 5 o'clock. And yesterday I received this.
Well, congratulations. This is from Henley. Good
Yeah,
for you.
from Henley Business School. So
have you received the one from EMCC?
No, yes. I was going to ask the question.
Me neither. So we both received an award from EMCC for contribution to supervision, but we have not seen the award yet. So who knows? Maybe one day. Congratulations.
I'm going to ask Sarah. But it's really, I think I'm the first French one to have an award from a Brit business school about coaching and supervision. So it's a first time in the world.
Congratulations. That's a great honor. So that's great you received that honor. So let's keep going around. Ronni, do you want to go next since you're going to be presenting today, and maybe you want to say something else about you?
Sure. So I'm Ronni, and I I was in Damien's cohort 4. Mm-hmm. And what are you up to now?
12.
12?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that long ago. That's kind of amazing. So I was in cohort 4, and my coaching I've done in a variety of different areas, and the 2 relevant things for tonight are going to be that I worked with Doug Silsby in presence-based coaching, and more recently did the Somatic Coaching program at the Strozzi Institute, and that will come into play later.
Thank you for accepting the invitation to do the session here today. So who wanna go next? Just let's go around. Just don't wait for me to say. Just say hi and say your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, I'm Janine Bailey. I am in Point Lonsdale, Victoria, Australia, and it's 1 a.m. here. Oh, sorry, 1 p.m. I was up at 1 a.m. Part of my world is in Qatar in the Middle East, and I was doing some training last night at 1 a.m. And again tonight. So I'm all over the place. And I did cohort 7 with Damien. So, and I'm pleased to be coming along to these events as much as possible. So thank you for this good timing, Damien, compared to when I did the training, which was 2 a.m. in the morning with you.
That was commitment. Now, it would be nice if you want to, at the end of the session, to put the link so people learn more about the Australasia ICF conference coming up. So Janine is organizing a conference, and they're going to be a component on coaching supervision. So it would be great for people to attend if you can.
Yeah. Thanks, Damien. Thanks for the plug, and I'll put the link in.
Great.
I go second?
Yeah.
Alex calling in from South Korea. And I think I was the cohort 6 from Damien's great supervision, the program. And that's how I got to know many wonderful, faces here. And I'm really looking forward to Ronnie's presentation now today, because I think, that as far as I know, she's the treasure box of anything comes to coaching and coaching supervision. So go, Ronnie.
Who wanna go next?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Johnson, and I am a guest tonight. I'm in the current 12th cohort with Damien and Sunny and Danny, a few of us here. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I train coaches for the Coach Partnership in Singapore and for the Newfield Network in the US. And I'm excited now to learn how to be a supervisor, and I'm just beginning.
Welcome. So we have a few people who are the first session today, so that's great. Welcome to our network.
I'm Sunny Smith, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm also in cohort 12, and I have been working with Damien on and off for a long, long time. I think 2008 or something like that, but I'm very glad to be here.
Good to have you.
I can go next.
Okay.
I'm Francis.
Okay, Fran, where are you?
Malaysia. Yeah, and it's about 11 a.m., so very good timing for me. And I'm trying to meet up with Janine, because once I move to Australia, then she will be my neighbor.
Great. Well, this is part of our goal here, Fran, is to have a network of colleagues where we can not only learn from each other, but support each other. So
Yep.
this is the goal that we have here with this network of people in Asia who can learn from each other and support each other. So that's great that you know Janine. Jan Elvire, do you want to go next?
Yes, I can go next. I'm calling from Paris. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I've been trained as a coach by the Coaches Training Institute in California, and as a supervisor by EMCC, Michelle Morale, here. And this is it. I enjoy very much being part of the community here, and I can meet very interesting people and learn very interesting things as well. Thank you.
Great to have you. Great to have you. This is a big effort for our European colleagues to wake up very early to be here. That's commitment.
Absolutely, yeah.
Who are we missing? Hermione, do you want to go next?
Yes. Hi. Good morning. This is 8:45 in the morning out here, New Delhi, India. And I'm a PCC coach, but very new to supervision. So here to learn from all of you, and hope to do that. Thank you so much.
Great. Welcome. Welcome to our call. Danny, do you want to go next?
Yes, I'm Danny from Jakarta, Indonesia, from cohort 12. Excited to, I've been trying to really not missing anything from your program, Damien, but then a lot of things.
Yeah, this is what my father said. Damien, I didn't do too many things. Yes, great to have you.
It's good. I think just absorb anything, then which one is going to be pick up in the future, right?
Welcome to the call. Who is missing? Nathan, do you want to go next?
Hi everybody. My name's Nathan DeWitt. Everybody calls me Nate, and it is 12:15 Wednesday afternoon in Tokyo. And I am missing lunch because I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Okay, next time you can bring it with you, okay? It's okay to have lunch during the meeting, okay, if you need to.
Bad planning, sorry, you're right.
It's okay.
Nate, I don't think missing lunch gets you as many points as 5 a.m. So
that's true. You're right.
Are we missing a couple of people who don't have the camera on? Do you want to say hi? Yes.
Yeah, hi. My name is Dipan. I'm from India. It's 9:15, and I'm a guest here first time. Actually, I've been invited by one of your colleagues, Mr. Dharmesh Mistry, and so I'm eager to and keen to learn from each one of you. I'm a practicing coach here in India. Yeah, I practice executive coaching, and I also train some people to become coaches.
Welcome to our network meetings.
Thank you, Damien.
Liu, you wanna go next?
Yes, I'm Liu Xin from Shanghai, China. I'm learning supervision with Damien and another 10 or 11 coaches. So far, I only have some concept or theory, so I'd like to see a real supervision session. So that's the reason I'm here. So nice to meet everyone.
Thank you for joining. And today I think that Ronni is going to be doing some
Damien,
exercises.
I think we missed Hanju.
Okay, hi. I thought I did already.
Did you?
At the beginning, but that's okay. You can tell us a little bit more.
At the very beginning, but not during the round, right?
Yeah, I'm new here, so I be quiet and then listen today.
Okay. And we have Yves Pascal just joined us. Do you want to say hi? Where are you calling from?
Yes, I am. I'm calling from Singapore. As you can hear, I'm French. And I'm starting my supervision journey.
Great, welcome.
With CSA.
Great. Welcome to our call. It's great to have you here. So
Thank you for welcoming me.
So anybody else is without a camera that want to say hi? Okay, let's jump, Ronni, to do some work.
Okay. Damien, what's the time frame?
So we have 45 minutes. We have the program lasts 1 hour. Okay.
All right. So we're probably going to, so let me just give a little preface, and then we're going to do a little practicing together and a little more talking. How's that sound? So, and this is not so much, we're not going to demo supervision as much as look at a way of bringing somatics into our work. And what I want to say as a starting point is, and I did a session with a coaching group last week, and I made the same point because I think it's just so critical. Unlike maybe some of the things that we do, somatics begins with us, and it begins with our relationship to our own embodiment. And I think that actually the greatest benefit of the practice that I'm going to introduce is how it can inform how we be as supervisors and as coaches with our clients, and the perspective and the presence that it gives us. And I started the morning with Damien as well. We began at 8 a.m. together in an MCC group that he's leading. And the topic this morning was really about the being. And it was very relevant to supervision as well. And I think that somatics is one of the most powerful tools we have for accessing the here and now. So I want to present that as kind of a frame for the practice we're going to do and a frame for thinking about doing somatic work. I got serious about this when I started to realize that the extent of my ability to do somatics was to say, where do you feel that in your body? Get an answer I didn't know what to do with. Either didn't get an answer and got sort of a look, or got an answer and didn't know where to go with it. And I had the sense that there's so much more, and there's a powerful reason to be accessing our bodies in our work, and to be bringing, the soma really means mind body, and it's not body or mind. It's really bringing that total body mind into the work that we do. It's how we show up. Change happens in our nervous system more and more. We're learning of the linkages between our gut and our head. I mean, there's just so much, both at a scientific level and at kind of a more spiritual level, that I think makes this work so powerful. And I think the awareness of it is just increasingly growing. So what I want to offer is really to begin with the most basic and, in my mind, most powerful practice that I learned when I did my work at the Strezzi Institute. Some of you may have been exposed to it. There's a lot of experience and talent in this room. And what I'd like to do is go through the practice together, and then talk a little bit about the practice and then talk about how to bring that into our work. So that's the plan. So, but first I just want you to be in the practice itself, and we're going to do the practice of centering. It all starts there. You know, without centering, it's really the beginning and the middle, and it really could be the beginning, the middle, and the end. If all we do is continuously practice coming back to and finding center, that's pretty big. And you know, for those of us who did come off of the debates, I was thinking about how grateful I am that I have these practices and am able to find center even in the midst of the turbulence that we're experiencing. So we're gonna do the practice together. You can stay seated or you can stand. There's a value, I think, in standing. And I do want to say this is a very, very, very scalable practice. When I learned it, I was told to do it, I think, 25 times a day. And the trick to doing something 25 times a day is to find ways to make it scalable. And we'll do maybe a 5 to 7 minute version, and then we'll talk about at some point do maybe a 10-second version so you can see the scalability. Right, so we center for the sake of being present, open, and connected. And we center in the world with our eyes open so that this is a practice that we have access to wherever we are and in whatever place we are. We don't center to get calm, we center to get present. And I want to make that distinction because I think it's important. If at the end of centering your mood is anxious, it's probably just revealing something that is happening and being attuned to it. So you didn't fail at centering if you don't feel calm when we're done with this. That's not the purpose. The purpose of centering is to be open, present, and connected. So let's, if you want to stand, I will, partly because I won't fall asleep that way. And then I would also recommend, so a trick to being able to keep your eyes open and doing this practice when in front of a screen, because I'm finding that to be a little tricky, is actually to put your gaze, you can look out a window or look somewhere else. You don't have to look into the camera because that can be a little awkward. In a room of people, it's much easier. So we're going to find a place where you can put your gaze that's comfortable and easy, and we're going to begin just by noticing what is. And what I mean by that is we're going to the level of what is at the level of sensation. So notice the sensations that you're experiencing in this moment. It just means tuning into sensation. Notice any part of you that feels warmer or cooler. Notice the feeling of your feet on the floor. Notice anywhere where you're holding any tension. Notice any place that's particularly at ease. Notice where there might be movement. For me, I notice sort of a tingling in my hands. Just notice what is. From there, we're going to move into centering in 4 different dimensions: length, width, depth, and purpose or center. So we're going to begin with, which are the dimensions that all of us have, all creatures have, all things have. So we'll begin by centering in length. So allow yourself to feel from the bottom of your feet till the top of your head, as if you could drop a plumb line straight through, with your head reaching to the sky and your feet grounding in the earth. And as you do that, notice if you're efforting. If you're efforting, just ease up a little. This is full length and easeful. So you can feel the space between your vertebrae. Allow your shoulders to drop into your back pockets. You sense your full height. We associate the dimension of length with dignity. We inhabit our dignity and we acknowledge the dignity around us. Just take a breath in length. And then we'll move into width. So allow yourself from the inside out to extend side to side. We actually have muscles that cross our rib cage that we can, as we breathe out, we can extend those muscles out. So extending your shoulders, your middle, the sides of your legs, really extending. As you extend out, this is the dimension where we get to take up space and also be aware of our boundaries. If we were standing in a circle, this would be the dimension where we'd be reaching into the circle, sort of extending out to one another. So this is the dimension of connection. So as you extend into this dimension, take a moment and think about the communities and the people that you extend into, even in this very odd time where many of us are not doing as much connecting in person. So that dimension of width or connection. From there, we'll move into the dimension of depth, and we'll start with our back bodies, which is the least visible part to us, and begin by simply noticing that you have a back body. Sense the back of your head, your back of your legs, and it's as if you could just trust that the space behind you holds you. And it's filled with your wisdom and your knowledge and your experience and your lineage. All that supports you, all that's at your back. You can kind of allow yourself to really, without actually leaning back, leaning into that. And now allow your attention to travel to the front plane of your body, to what's ahead. So if our back body is what supports us and holds our history, the front plane is what we face and what's ahead of us, the future. And you can actually take a hand on your front and back and just know that there's, all that whole depth. You can sense your depth. You can actually come to that middle, which is this present moment. And then allow your attention to travel to your actual center. If it's helpful to put a hand on just below your belly, touch your center. In that center, you can notice that you're bringing together all those dimensions, your height, width, depth, now attending to your true center. And this is this dimension of commitment, of what truly matters. And as we place our attention in our center, just take a moment and really access what matters most. What's truly important. And then just take a moment and take all that in. Height, width, depth, center. Just take another breath. And you can find your seat. And in the chat, just jot down in 1 or 2 words what your current mood is. So write down your mood in 1 or 2 words. And take a look at what's in the chat. And you can notice the range. We have serenity, we have calm, we have curious, we have alert, concerned. Yeah, and Janine, I think that's a great example of when you slow down and give yourself time, you access some of the things that are underneath. It's not necessarily all, like, again, it's not all calm. Okay. So what I'd like to do is kind of open up the conversation a little bit and say, what did you notice in that practice? Anything that came up for you that you noticed that struck you?
I had, Yves Pascal, I had a strong body experience at the end when you ask us to notice what is there. Mm-hmm. Actually, I feel my feet. I had a double sensation. I feel my feet very strongly grounded to the floor, and at the same time, I feel the rest of my body very light. Mm. So it was kind of an opposite feeling of feeling very heavy on the ground and very light in my body.
And was that a kind of a new sensation, that particular awareness?
Yeah, I never noticed that
Okay.
way, yeah.
Okay. Other noticings?
Time seemed to slow down a bit. It was there was a moment where it was it's very loud where I live, and there was a moment where everything slowed down, and even as I glanced at the clock, the second hand seemed to be moving a little slower. Just, I don't know, just maybe I was just more aware. Maybe just more aware.
Yeah. Great.
When I was instructed to focus on my back, I can feel an energy block maybe somewhere opposite to my chest. And when you ask us to focus on the center, I try to figure out where the center is. And I feel it could be somewhere in front of my chest, but I'm not so sure. And I kind of feel something not very stable there. It's like it's not calm. I don't know how to describe that. It's like in the water, there's some stirring, from there. It's like I have many things to do related.
So again, you're noting when we tune into sensations, there's a lot of possible things that we can start to notice that are kind of subtle. And until we slow down, we don't notice them. And we're going to talk a little bit about in a moment about why noticing sensation actually matters, because we're learning a lot about that. So we'll hold on to that for a moment. Anyone else? Any other observations or?
Yes, I can say, as I have written in the chat box, aligned, feel like all the different parts come together in line, like they are maybe apart and then they come back in line. And I feel that I am whole.
What you just said is also what I think Richard Strozzi, when he speaks about this, and actually both of my teachers who taught me this the most, one of the reasons we do this is that feeling of coming into sort of wholeness is what this practice is really about, continuously accessing our wholeness and having that be a place that we get to know really well, so that under pressure and under stress, we have this center we can find our center. So it's really, and I can't think of a moment in history when this isn't a more, when this practice wouldn't be more useful, right? Like our need in this moment to have our ability to find our own center when what circulates around us can feel so turbulent. And maybe, I mean, I hope that maybe outside of the United States, it's not quite so bad, but I don't think it's you know, there's an international dimension as well, I'm sure. I look with envy at people living in South Korea. All right, but our ability to come back to and find our own center. And it's actually one of the most extraordinary things about humans, that when I gave you an instruction to shift your attention, that you were able to do that. Just take a moment and appreciate that we as humans have that capacity to move our attention, to say, I can move from the back to the front, I can move from the top to the bottom. There is no other species that, to the best of our knowledge, that has that kind of ability to use our attention in that way. And you know, one of the other things about this practice is helping ourselves and others manage our attention. So yeah, anything else that you want to say about the practice before we talk about how we might use it? I want to spend a couple minutes on that.
Ronni, it was interesting for me because when you said to find a spot to focus on, and then you said you didn't want us to close our eyes, I was relieved. But as you started to move your attention to different parts, you know, of our physical body, I found myself closing my eyes. And I wasn't trying to, and I had to kind of alert myself because I was visually actually picturing what you were saying as well as, you know, doing it.
Yeah, I actually started closing my eyes too, which I thought was pretty funny given that I had given that instruction. So yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so let's just take a moment and think about, in the context of our work, where and how might that one practice, well, before I do that, I want to take you through the 10-second version. Thank you, Janine. So I want to take a moment and show you the 10-second version, just because I mentioned that this is very scalable. So just in this moment, it's a 4-breath practice. Just breathe into your length, your width, your depth, and your center. So I do that a lot. Like that is a very quick, I mean, that was when I was told, do this 25 times a day. I figured I got to figure something out here. And that was, I think, what we were really being asked to figure out is you can, in 4 breaths, reconnect to center. And so I wanted to do that as well. And now I want to ask the question, how might this practice be used in your work?
Okay, I think I like a shorter version more because I'm not a really meditative type of person. And the other thing is that I think this is a quick way to bring in our coaching presence before the session. Yeah. And also I recommend actually this exercise to the clients who wants to build upon their executive presence.
Yeah, so again, it works at all the levels. It works at, we can use it before a session. We can offer it to our clients. What about inside of supervision?
Yeah, I think Ronni, it's a beautiful way to support our clients and ourselves to get present and come into our body and notice what is going on inside our body. And as a supervisor, we can offer what we're noticing inside. We can ask our client what's coming up for them. So I think it can be used really powerfully because we know that that eye of going inside the body and revealing what's happening inside is such a powerful transformative way to support our clients to understand, you know, what does that mean for you, that sensation? What's coming up with that sensation? What are the beliefs? What are the habits? What are the emotions that are inside the body based on that embodiment?
And I find sometimes when I work with clients, one of those dimensions will feel particularly awkward, so that becomes a practice. As in my work, I find that if I am starting to lean in and feel like I want to talk when I know it's not time, or jump in when I'm not, when I feel like it's not really optimal, that's when I use the depth. I just literally sense my back. It's I think the somatic trick is back and down, and you can make space for your client. And again, I think once we are inside of sensation, and I want to talk a little bit about sensation in a moment. And let me check. I think this group is going to actually have a lot more experience with this term than a lot of experience, but let me just check. How many of you know the term interoception? Maybe you're familiar with that. So I mean, it's not a new thing, but interoception, and I'm going to actually bring up a quote here because I think this is going to be useful. Well, I'm going to share my screen for a second here. Hold on. Okay. Oh, Damien, can you give me access to share screen? Yeah, thanks. Okay. Okay, so this is from an article, and then this is from an article, I think it defines it fairly well. So interoception is when you access sensation, what you're accessing is your interoceptive system. And it's the perception of sensations from inside the body. So when we slow down and pay attention to sensation, we're accessing our interoceptive system. And it is constantly happening. It's happening outside of our awareness most of the time. It's as it says here, it includes the perception of physical sensations related to internal organ function, such as heartbeat, respiration, satiety, meaning what that means is how full you feel, as well as the autonomic nervous system related to emotions. These remain mostly unconscious, and interoceptive awareness is when we start paying attention to the sensations that are happening internally. And there's a body of research that's suggesting, and this actually explains a lot of what happens in meditation. It explains a lot of things that, you know, kind of we've known forever, but now we have a name for it. This last, I'm going to skip to the italicized piece. Interoceptive awareness is a window to emotional experience, as well as potentially providing access to important mechanisms of emotion regulation. So when we drop below the storyline, even below the naming the emotion, into the physical sensations of what's happening in the moment, we get access to a world of data. And also the other thing we get access, which I think is just as interesting, is we get access to choice. And this is, there's a woman, Lisa Feldman Barrett. You can listen to her TED Talks. Her book is, if any of you have read it, it's not an easy read. And she speaks about, I'm going to again go to just the part that's italicized here. Interoception is in fact one of the core ingredients of emotion, but the feelings that come from interoception are much simpler than full-blown experiences like joy and sadness. The science behind interoception, grounded in the wiring of your brain, will help you see yourself in a new light. It demonstrates that you're not at the mercy of emotions that arise unbidden, to control your behavior. You are an architect of these experiences. And I'm gonna stop sharing. We could. So what that's really saying is when we drop into the sensation, we sort of interrupt the story and we get an opportunity to explore for ourselves and with our clients, you know, what's the experience you're having in the here and now? And this is why I think this has so much relevance to supervision. We can drop into the experience in the here and now, free of the naming of the emotion, free of the storyline, and we can really explore at a very deep level. So what is the sensational experience you're having in a client conversation? So if you're working with in supervision, like asking people to access their experience, like what is that coaching client bringing up for them? What's happening interoceptively? And one of the things that centering does for us is it starts giving us access to the language of sensation. We aren't trained in this. We didn't get taught how to do this. So I think centering is a really good practice also to increase our own interoceptive awareness, which gives us a whole new vocabulary, I think, in our work. I'm sort of starting to feel like interoception is the superpower that we all have and don't really know that we have. And it sits behind the somatic work. Somatics works at the level of sensation. And so I just wanted to share that because I think that's, for me, that's been like super powerful. That's been a real insight. So I just want to see if anybody, any questions about that or thoughts about that? Did that make sense? Yeah, so it's something as simple as, you know, when we did that thing at the beginning, warmth and cool and movement, it doesn't seem like it's such a big deal, but we're actually accessing something really powerful. And I think we have the ability to change the conversation when we do that. We have the ability to have the conversation at a different level. And if our job is to create a reflective space, I can't think of a better way to do it than bring that dimension of our being into the work. So that's really what I wanted to offer more than anything was that thought.
I shared in the chat room, Ronni, the document that you sent me for people.
Oh, great. Okay.
Coach. I don't know if you want to share that because we got 15 minutes to wrap up. So
okay, so what I'd like to do is actually ask you a question. We could talk a little bit more about somatics, or I could actually do one more. We have time for one more practice.
I will do one more practice.
I think practice is a good idea. So, Damien, I wanted to do the I, we, all that I did because I think that was a really powerful practice for supervisors as well. Okay, so I want to take you through one more practice and keep in mind that piece around interoception. So as we do this practice, get really curious about sensation. And this is a practice, one thing that I've tended to notice about somatic practices is they're not very creatively named. So this is called I, we, all, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on I, we, and all. So what I'd like you to do, we'll do this one sitting. For this one, we'll just begin by the way, I love this one in a time of increased social distancing because we get to remember, we get to explore all these dimensions, whether or not there's anybody with us, whether we're, you know, some of us are still pretty isolated. So do that. We're going to do the 10-second centering practice and move from there into this practice. So find center, length, width, depth, and from that centered presence, allow your attention to come into the shape of I. I'm looking out for me. What do I want to do today? This is moving into the shape of I. Let your attention stay with sensation. So not the story of I, but the feeling of I. What happens in your chest as you move into the I? What's your relationship to the floor underneath you? Where does your attention go in your body? Is it more in your head, your back body, your front? Just really get curious about what is happening at the level of sensation when you move into the I shape. From there, just kind of breathe that out a second and move into the shape of the next couple of breaths, move into the shape of we. Let's say that's everybody on this call. It could be the we you most identify with, your family, your friends, just moving into the shape of we. Let yourself be connected with that we. And again, get curious at the level of your body. Notice how does this shift anything in your breath, your temperature, your mood, your sense, anything at the level of sensation. Feeling we. And over the next couple of breaths, we're going to extend further out into the shape, into the all. So let yourself expand into the all. We could say that means every living being on this planet, the grasses, the animals, the birds, the humans, really taking on the all. Again, let yourself notice what happens here without judgment. For some, this might feel wonderful. For some, it might be, get me out of here. Works both ways. For some of us, we're not quite sure what to do at this point. So whatever it is, just notice. And then move yourself back into the we. And then back into whatever feels most comfortable and easeful, which might be the we, it might be something else. And again, I'm going to ask you just to take a moment and share any, you can come off mute and just share anything that you noticed in this practice.
Ronni, I think I was most comfortable with we, because even more so than the me, the I. Mm-hmm. The I was very. I live by myself right now, so it's where I am all the time. Yeah. But the we, I could hear your voice, and I can imagine Sunny and Danny and Damien and you and just the other people on the call. So that was easier. So and going to the all is just. Yeah, I start going to people in cars and just on the roads, and it my mind couldn't adapt. But when you say come back to we, I'm like, yeah, I'm here with you, Ronni. So that was, and I do a lot of Zoom. Everybody does, you know, we're all doing Zooms there. So this is how we connect. So yeah, that's what hit me. Sorry.
Great. Someone else. What did you notice?
I think for me, Ronni, it felt good to move into the we, and moving into the all also for me felt very powerful, because it was actually a very spiritual connection. You know, when you started to mention, I think, the grass and, you know, everything living, there was this very spiritual connection to all that is living. So that felt very powerful for me, being very focused on climate and, you know, empowering the world, so to speak. So, and when you asked us to come back as well, coming back to the we also felt comfortable. I noticed when I was in the I was much more serious, much more focused, but I relaxed more into the we, and then the world was a spiritual connection for me.
Anyone else? Maybe one or two more, and then I'll just have a couple of things I want to say to wrap up.
I felt a sense of expansion. So, like, especially, moving to all, like I felt the change of my perspective to be more inclusive, putting my perspective onto more higher space. And, it reminded me of the video, The Power of 10, that we go higher and higher. And so which gives a lot of allowance that how we can shift our perspective to the sense of expansion and coming back down to scaling down, scaling up. So that was my experience.
So actually, I do want to ask, maybe we can take a couple comments on this. How could you use, I have seen so many applications for this particular practice. So I'd like to just, any thoughts you have on applications, like how can this be useful? And by the way, obviously, I mean, I don't think it barely needs saying there's no good state. These are just states and we have access to all of them. And partly this is a way to name the states we're in. It's also a way to be able to shift. And what Alex said, it's a way to shift perspectives. And I think even if we're thinking about working systemically, it's a way to step into different parts of the system somatically, not just conceptually. So I think I started answering my question about how to use it, didn't I? But anything else you want to add after I've started answering? Any other ways that you could imagine using this, especially inside of supervision, coaching?
I think for me, it's everything is about relationship with me, myself, relationship with others, and then relationship with the whole universe, the system, right? Organization and all that things. So it's systemic.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful practice for embodying systemic perspectives. I think it just dovetails so nicely with, and again, we get at it in a different way. We get at it in a, what I find is when we get, it's a way to actualize, we want people to sort of get out of their heads, but how do we actually do it? This is a wonderful practice to, get out of your head. And also, again, so much of these practices, like coaching, like supervision, is about expanding our sense of choice. And I think that recognition that we have choice in how we be in any given moment, and we can shift our being and shift our mood is both, it's empowering, and it gives us, just extends our choice in a very concrete way. So I view these as just such an important addition to the toolkit that we use as we work with our clients. Any other quick questions or anything? We've got a couple more minutes and then we can kind of call
it. In terms of resources, do you want to share some resources with people if they're interested in learning more? For example, one of the books, and I have it handy because you brought this up for coaching demo, but we have this book, The Art of Somatic Coaching. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. This is a good resource for people who are interested in learning more about, and you have it handy there too, from Richard Strauss Heckler. I'm going to put the reference in the, reference in the handout?
It's in the handout too. The other, I put three more books in the handout. One is, I jokingly refer to this as the most expensive book I ever bought. Amanda Blake wrote a book called Your Brain is Your Body. In the middle of the book, I decided to sign up for a full-on year-plus program at the Strozzi Institute, making it the most expensive book I ever bought. But unlike most of the books on this topic, it reads almost like, well, for me at least, it read a bit like a novel. I just kept wanting to read it. It's a lot of stories and very compelling. Another book I put in, because it's really interesting, it's more about trauma, but it relates to this world, is I just finished reading finally Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps Score, which is another really wonderful book that digs into the life of the body, certainly from a trauma perspective. But I just thought it was, again, just a wonderful read and deepened my understanding of all of this. So these book references are all in the handout. And as Janine said, right now, the other two resources are Coaches Rising, that does a lot of work in embodiment. Every spring they do a program. Asian time zones are not particularly great for their programs, but honestly, I've done most of them after the fact, listening to the recordings anyway, so it's not that critical. And the Strozzi Institute is currently doing a lot more, well, they're doing everything virtually, and my guess is they won't when this is over. So if you want to catch a virtual program, and as opposed to traveling to Petaluma, California, this is the time to do it. And they're also running things at a very reasonable cost basis right now. So whatever they're offering is really quite reasonable. And they're doing some very short-term programs.
That's a good idea, Ronni. I wanted to do something with Strozzi for years, but it's maybe virtually now, maybe easier.
Yeah, now's the moment because it's really...
But I did a session that Ronni recommended with Coaches Rising, and it's a really good program. I really enjoy it very much. So it's a good recommendation. It's Coaches Rising. They are in Europe, and they provide coaching training for coaches worldwide. And it's a good company, a good organization. There is another book that my supervisor recommended me because I was working on a lot of these issues in my supervision few years ago, Fiona Adamson. So she recommended me this book. She gave it to me as a present when I met her in London, Embedding Authenticity. I don't know if anybody have seen this book.
Is it literally the same color as the Art of Somatic Coaching? They look like almost the same book.
Yeah, they look similar because they have a ripple effect here. But it's called Embedding Authenticity, and the author is Eunice Aquilina. This is another interesting somatic path to transform self, team, and organization. But what is interesting, I like this book because it talks a lot about self as instrument. What Pat McLean also talks in her book about self as coach, self as leader. She talks a lot about vulnerability, authenticity, embodiment, self as instrument, very related to supervision work, particularly around I6. So anything else, Ronni, you want to say before we go?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Let's open our microphones and let's recognize Ronni for the presentation. That was really helpful.
Thank you, Ronni.
Thank you, Ronni.
Thank you.
If you want to write in the chat room, you can also thank her. Next month, we're going to have Elena Espinal doing a session on East and West. She has been doing some work with Jean-Francois, the past ICF Global President. I don't remember his last name now. And they have been working together in East and West. So they're going to bring about the cultural aspect of working as supervisors. And also, don't forget the presentation that there is in Australasia coming up. And also on Wednesday, a couple of days, maybe one day for people in Asia, there is the climate change one-day experience. And here, Janine, Lily are going to be facilitating. I'm going to be one of the facilitators too. Do you want to share briefly about what is this event? It's a free event to talk worldwide at different times during 24 hours on climate change. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can choose 1 hour to meet other colleagues worldwide and have a conversation about climate change issues. Do you have by any chance, any of you, the link handy to put it in the chat room? I have it in my newsletter coming up tomorrow. So if most people here receive my newsletter, so it's going to be there, the information. I'm sending it tomorrow morning first thing with the link and information. But if you don't have that and you want to know more, let's see if we can get the link for you, because that's a really great opportunity to work with colleagues and think together globally about climate change issues. So thank you, Janine, for sharing the link. So you may choose one time, and Janine is going to be facilitating. Lily, I am going to be also, I don't know if anybody else here is going to be involved. Fran, you are going to be facilitating too. There, I saw your picture there. Anybody else here? Well, it's great if you can join. It's 1 hour. It's a worthwhile experience talking about climate change, like how that affects us as coaches and in our work with our clients. Lily, any other announcement before we go?
Well, our America's Coaching Supervision Network, October 19th, we have Marilyn O'Hearn coming to talk about the cultural diversity part of coaching supervision. And then November 23rd, we have Karen Pratt from South Africa talking about transactional analysis. And that one's a 90-minute session. And Marilyn O'Hearn's is 75 minutes. So if you can make those, come and join us. Doesn't cost you anything. Same link every month. You can just get on the website and sign up for the newsletter if you're not on that as well. Or if you drop me a line or Damien, we can send you the link.
Well, thanks everybody for coming, and thank you, Ronni, again for a great session. I will see you next month, okay? Or before. Okay, take care. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.